Hello and welcome! We may look at a character and assume certain things about them, and they will behave in ways that we'd expect. But in other times, they actually don't. This is what we call subversion of expectation. And what is that? Well, it's a storytelling technique where a creator deliberately sets up a familiar pattern, trope, or assumption and then breaks it. In character design, the character's appearance suggests one role, personality, or function, but their actual behavior, abilities, or presence contradicts that visual cue. Now, what's important to mention regarding subversion of expectation is that it's a storytelling technique. It's not a part of the fundamentals, it's not a design technique, it's a storytelling technique. That means that if you're telling a story, whether through a comic book, animation, creating a film, or doing sets of illustrations, that's where it can be used, right? And a decent example of this would be a character named Nui Harime from Kill la Kill. For those that have seen the show, they would know what I'm talking about. But just to give an explanation, when you look at her for the first time, you'll go, that's a very cute looking character. I think I know who this character is and how she'll behave. She's going to behave in a very cute manner. But as you watch the show, you realize she is nothing like what you had expected. And you go, oh, she is very evil and malicious. Now let's look at some expected character roles. So character design relies on shared visual language. We instinctively read body language, shape, age, clothing, and color to understand who a character is and what role they play. Essentially, with these examples, what you'll see is what you get, right? So these expectations help the audience quickly identify heroes, villains, leaders, or side characters. So when you look at someone like Superman, he is a kind-hearted superhero. That's kind of the first instinct you have when you look at him. And he is. When you look at Gandalf from Lord of the Rings, he looks like a wise old wizard. And he is. You look at Dr. Neocortex from Crash Bandicoot, he looks like an evil mad scientist. And he is. Right? And these are just examples of some characters where, again, what you'll see is pretty much what you'll get. There is more depth to these characters, of course, but that's the examples I wanted to bring up. But let's flip the script here. Subversion happens when a character looks like one thing, but functions as another, right? Just clarifying that. The design sets up an assumption, then challenges it through contrast. It doesn't necessarily have to be the opposite of what you would have expected, it's just something different than what you had expected. So this creates surprise, memorability, and stronger character identity because they stand out to you. Now let's give some examples in media. The first one we can look at is Saitama from One Punch Man. I highly recommend watching the first season, it's great, and the manga is really good. Okay, so when you look at Saitama, what you expect is a forgettable superhero wannabe. That's the first kind of thing that pops into your head when you look at this character for the first time. He's slightly goofy in appearance, he looks very simple. You look at his suit and it looks store-bought. Nothing like Batman or Spider-Man. When you look at their suits, it looks like it's industrialized. It's way more professional. But with him, not so much. But what you actually get is one of the most powerful heroes alive. Clueless, but sincere. And so if I just go to the next slide here and we'll just do a comparison. What's very interesting here is that we just have some guy versus a mentally unstable, brutal insectoid monster with an insatiable bloodlust. If I had to, just guess who would win, looking at this in isolation without any context in mind, you would go, this guy. He's stronger, he's larger, he looks extremely powerful in comparison to this small little fella. But this is what actually happens in the show. Saitama completely obliterates this guy, or this monster. And that is what's so funny in the story, because every single character would go, yeah, I'm assuming this guy isn't a big deal, but he actually is. And that creates a fun way of playing with subversion of expectation in the context of the story. Let's look at someone else, Beast from Beauty and the Beast. So the expectation here is that he looks like a monster, so he must be some sort of bad guy, some sort of villain. But what's actually the case in the story is that he is the romantic lead. Now, with Beast, he actually is not really a good guy when you first meet him. He actually behaves a little bit like a monster. But over time, we realize that there's actually more depth to him. This isn't like an instantaneous sort of subversion of expectation here that you would see with Saitama. It's actually more of like, oh, this guy is actually more misunderstood, and there's more to him than being a monster, right? So the Beast is a physical manifestation of his flaws, but grows into a good person over time, creating a dissonance between his appearance and behavior. Now let's look at someone the opposite of Beast, Hans from Frozen. The expectation here is that he's a charming, handsome prince, and that he's going to be the romantic interest in the film. But in reality, he's actually the villain of the story. Now, I need to give some context to this, because this is a film made by Disney, and Disney is known to create a prince that is going to be the romantic love interest. That's often the story beat that they follow. But it ended up doing something quite different with this character in this film, and when people saw it for the first time, this was in 2013, it was quite novel. And so it came as a shock for a lot of people when he turned out to not actually be the good guy after all. So Hans presents the opposite dissonance in this context. He has all the traits of a Disney romantic lead at the beginning, but is revealed to only mirror those around him to achieve his goals, and there is no character development and no remorse. Disney has played with this sort of good guy who's actually a bad guy in later dates, and it's not so much as a surprise anymore. So that's how culture and how assumptions can change over time based on patterns that we have seen in the past. But remember, this was released in 2013 when it was more novel and people haven't seen it before. Alright, so how do we play with Subversion? Subversion is not about randomness. We have to think about the intent behind it. So it works best when the expectation is clear first and then deliberately challenged. So the following examples show common ways to play with subversion in character design. So the first we can look at here is the body and general appearance. We often judge a character's strength, intelligence, or threat level based on their body and general appearance. So what if the weak, harmless, or unintimidating is actually powerful? Remember how we looked at Saitama? That's an example of someone who's like that. Or when a character who looks frightening or dominant and turns out to be gentle or kind. Again, we looked at the Beast from Beauty and the Beast, and that was also the case there. So physical appearance creates immediate expectations that can be intentionally challenged. Okay, so I have two scenarios here. I just wanted to show that quickly with these two drawings. And we have a Frankenstein's monster looking creature right here. And when you just look at him, you would go, yeah, he's behaving in a way that we'd expect. You know, we'll have looked at zombies or monsters in media in the past, and they're looking to hurt people. And this is kind of a scenario where something like that happens. But if we take that character, put him in a scenario where he's actually gentle and kind, you know, he's not bothering anyone, he's just looking at his butterfly, and you have this woman who feels safe enough to take care of him and give him a flower crown, okay? And this is just like a little way to play with subversion of expectation here with this small little story that I created. And if you want to look at more examples of something similar to that, I recommend looking into the Frankenstein's monster and the story of that one. I have an example here by Bernie Wrightson, and he has done some beautiful inked illustrations of the Frankenstein's monster. Just the illustrations themselves are beautiful. If you want to look at a movie that came out recently, is Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. That's also a good movie that I recommend watching. Check it out. We can also look at age and condition. Age usually signals experience, fragility, or authority. So subversion can flip this by giving elderly characters physical dominance or young-looking characters overwhelming competence. And so I have a few different examples here. We have Master Roshi from Dragon Ball Z. He just looks like a weak old man when you're first introduced to him, but he's actually nothing like that at all in the show. We also have Sevika from Arcane. When you first meet this character, she has an arm, but she loses it at some point in the story, but instead of getting weaker and her retiring, she actually ends up continuing forth and she actually gets stronger in the show. And here's just a little drawing that I did of a little character who is like a young kid, but is actually super strong and very competent. Probably been hunting something and is having a good time, and I just wanted to play with something kind of fun right there. We can also look at status and clothing. So clothing communicates wealth, status, and professionalism. Subversion happens when simple, casual, or worn clothing hides authority or danger, or when ornate designs mask insecurity or incompetence, or simply worn by someone you'd least expect. And so these two drawings or paintings that I did a while ago are essentially orcs or like goblins. Basically, whenever you think of orc or goblin, the first thing you probably think about is how primitive they are and they live in a sort of like brutal society. But I wanted to design these characters with maybe high fashion in mind, and that immediately makes you go, oh, that's not something I've seen before, and that creates that sense of contrast. And when you start to like analyze the piece, you realize how interesting it is. Here's just another character, a sketch that I did of this mage character that is wearing very rough clothing. And he doesn't really stand out to you as someone that's very important, but what if he was actually really powerful? Now, this is where, when you're designing a character in isolation, me just telling you that is not really like enough. It's about setting that character in a story, that it being an illustration or set of illustrations, a comic or an animation, something like that, where you get to actually look at a character, be like, maybe you're just missing them, but then seeing how powerful they actually are. A good example of this was actually Gandalf the Grey for me when I was looking at him. Yes, what I saw was what I got in regards to him being a wise old wizard, but I dismissed his power when I first saw him in the film. And when I actually got to see him fight the Balrog in the film, I realized how powerful he actually was. And that, to me, when I saw the film for the first time, was quite novel for me. So let's summarize this. Subversion of expectation works because audiences bring assumptions with them, right? Strong character designs uses those assumptions intentionally, whether to reinforce them or challenge them. So subversion is a twist, not the foundation, right? And here's two different illustrations that I just wanted to showcase before wrapping it up. We have a crop of Azarias at the End of the World by Adolf Hermie Herschel. This is actually a crop of a much larger illustration, but I just wanted to focus on these two characters right here. Specifically about the physical embodiment of death and how he's following this old man who is, in this story, immortal. The image of death here is almost like a taunting, threatening figure. He doesn't look welcoming at all. And it is probably an image that we are most familiar with in modern entertainment. Basically, death being a skeleton with who's essentially like a hooded figure with a scythe. But here's another piece. This is Death and a Maiden by Marianne Stokes. And this is a different interpretation of death, who's a lot more melancholic and calm, not threatening, but someone who's a lot more, I wouldn't say welcoming either, but not someone who's there to hurt this woman. The story of this image here is that you have this woman who's clutching her sheets and coming face to face with death, and she realizes that she's about to die. and Death is not taking pleasure in any of this or coming there to threaten her, but simply to tell her it's her time. Now, this was actually a more common interpretation of Death in the past, more like a dark angel. But we're not familiar with that image these days. So when I saw this image, I was used to seeing Death as a skeleton rather than a dark angel. And this to me was more novel. But this is due to the fact that assumptions and culture has changed over time. So that's why I wanted to bring up the fact that subversion of expectations might actually be something new when it comes out at a certain date, but that might change over time, and that becomes the new norm, and it becomes an expectation, and then it might change again, right? And that's because the stories and the way people tell stories can change over time. I wanted to do a quick course recommendation. If you like what we do, and if you are curious about the courses that we're creating, I highly recommend checking out Character Design for Video Games, where I talk about creating characters from scratch. Axel Sarwald also has a course on light and color if you want to get much better at playing with light and balancing colors in your illustrations or pieces. We also have UTO's Design Foundations 1 if you want to learn more about design and how to design properly and you don't know where to start. Alright, and that is the end of the video. Thank you so much for having watched all the way through. If you want to support us, we have actually recently set up a Ko-Fi page. The link is in the description, or you can scan the QR code. You can buy us a coffee. Any amount is highly appreciated. You can also subscribe and hit the bell notification for future video updates. And we also have a Discord community where we have artists coming in every single day, people posting art, asking for feedback, and we also have daily challenges. So I recommend checking that out as well. With that being said, thank you so much, and I'll catch you around next time. Bye-bye.